Who could imagine that a millionaire, who thought blind dates were nothing but a waste of time, would step into a restaurant, only to find a poor waitress being humiliated at her own table? One man's intervention, one woman's courage, and a single night that would change everything they believed about love. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story, everyone. Ana Lopez adjusted the sleeves of her pale blue blouse for what felt like the 100th time. The blouse wasn't new. In fact, she had ironed it at dawn before her morning shift at the cafe. But it was the nicest piece of clothing she owned that didn't smell like French fries or coffee. The tiny Italian restaurant glowed with golden lamps, polished glasses, and the faint aroma of truffle pasta, and Ana felt like a tourist who had stumbled into the wrong country. "This is ridiculous," she whispered to herself as she smoothed the fabric over her lap. Her palms were already damp. Her blind date was supposed to arrive 30 minutes ago. She had already finished the free bread basket, sipped on 2 glasses of water, and pretended to scroll through non-existent messages just to avoid the awkward stares of the waiters. Her friend Clara had sworn this was a good idea. "You work too hard, Annie," Clara had said, practically dragging her to sign up for the dating app. "You're always serving other people. But when's the last time someone treated you?" And so here she was, heart pounding, dressed in borrowed heels that pinched her toes, waiting for a stranger. The stranger finally arrived. Ryan Brooks. He walked into the restaurant with a polished suit, slicked back hair, and an air of confidence that screamed self-assured entitlement. At first glance, Ana thought he looked like a man who belonged to this world, sharp, expensive, certain of himself. But the certainty faltered the moment his eyes landed on her. "Oh," Ryan muttered. He hesitated by the door as though searching for an escape. For a second, Ana thought he might turn around and leave. Instead, with a forced smile, he approached the table. "Ana, right?" His tone was flat, as if he were already disappointed. "Yes. Hi. I'm glad you came," she answered, forcing a hopeful smile. Ryan sat, immediately signaling the waiter for wine, then glanced at her blouse, her hair, her worn purse set carefully beside her chair. His lips twitched with something between annoyance and condescension. "You look different than I expected," he said after a pause. "Your profile said elegant, classic style. I thought you'd be more," he gestured vaguely, searching for a word, "put together." Ana's cheeks burned. "I just came from work. I'm a waitress at—" "A waitress," he interrupted, leaning back. "Of course. That explains it." She blinked, stunned. "Explains what?" "The whole vibe," he said, smirking as he adjusted his cufflinks. "Don't get me wrong, you seem nice, but this isn't really my circle. I was hoping for someone, who fits better, not someone who spends her days carrying trays." Ana's heart sank, but she fought to keep her voice steady. "I may not belong to your circle, Ryan, but at least I'm honest about who I am." Ryan chuckled, shaking his head. "Relax, don't be so sensitive. I'm just saying you look more like the waitress than the date tonight. That blouse." He tilted his head with mock curiosity. "Did you borrow it from the cafe uniform rack?" The words hit harder than she expected. Ana clenched her hands beneath the table. She had been laughed at by rude customers before, but hearing it from the man she was supposed to be having dinner with cut differently. Before she could answer, another voice cut across the table. Smooth, calm, laced with subtle steel. "Careful," it said. "The last time someone mocked a waitress in this restaurant, they ended up choking on their arrogance." Ana's head snapped up. So did Ryan's. Standing just a few feet away was Daniel Brooks. The Daniel Brooks, resident of the Ocean Towers penthouse, a man whose name appeared in Forbes whenever the topic of young tech millionaires came up. He wasn't in a tailored tux tonight, though. Instead, he wore a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, a blazer draped casually over one shoulder, and a half-smile that carried more danger than comfort. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Excuse me, do we know you?" "No," Daniel said lightly, though his gaze didn't waver. "But I know what good manners look like. And humiliating a woman at a dinner table isn't part of the definition." Anna's pulse skipped. The entire restaurant seemed to go quieter. She could feel eyes on their table, forks pausing mid-air, whispers stirring. Ryan bristled. "Listen, pretty boy, this is none of your business." "Maybe not," Daniel admitted. He turned his eyes to Anna, softer now. "But if she takes my hand, then it becomes my business." Anna's breath caught. Daniel extended his hand. She hesitated only for a second, then placed her trembling fingers into his. He pulled her gently to her feet, his calm confidence drowning out the humiliation that still burned in her chest. "Waiter," Daniel called smoothly. "A table for two, please, and kindly escort this gentleman out. He seems to have misplaced his manners." As Ryan sputtered, the staff quietly led him toward the door. Anna, still clutching Daniel's hand, stared at him in disbelief. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes, I did," Daniel answered with a faint, almost shy smile. "Because I know you." "You know me?" "Every Thursday morning, you hum a song while cleaning the tables at Cafe Luna," he said, his eyes warm with recognition. "Hard to forget." Anna's lips parted in shock. All this time, she thought no one noticed her, especially not someone like him. And just like that, what had begun as the worst night of her life twisted into something utterly unexpected. The waiter quickly set a new table near the large window, where candlelight reflected off the glass like tiny stars. Daniel guided Anna there with the kind of quiet assurance that made it seem as if everything happening was perfectly natural, as if rescuing humiliated waitresses from bad dates was simply part of his evening routine. Anna sat down slowly, still gripping the stem of her water glass like it was an anchor. Her heart hammered in her chest, not from fear but from the surreal absurdity of it all. Just an hour ago she was rehearsing small talk for a blind date, and now she was sitting across from Daniel Brooks, the man she had only ever seen from a distance when delivering food to the Ocean Tower residents. "You really didn't need to interfere," she said finally, finding her voice. Daniel leaned back, resting his blazer on the chair. "Yes, I did. No one deserves to be talked to like that, especially not you." Anna's cheeks flushed at the directness in his tone. "You don't even know me." His lips curved into a mischievous smile. "I know enough. You're the girl who always sings while wiping down tables at Cafe Luna. You sing off-key, by the way, and sometimes you dance when you think no one's watching." Anna nearly choked on her sip of water. "You noticed that? I live across the street. I see things. Hard to miss a waitress waltzing with a broom." Her first instinct was embarrassment, but it dissolved into laughter, a real, unrestrained laugh that surprised even her. It had been weeks since she had laughed without thinking about the rent, her sister's school fees, or her aching feet after 12-hour shifts. Daniel's eyes lit up at the sound. "That laugh suits you better than the fake smile you gave Ryan." Anna tilted her head, suspicious. "So this is your strategy? Rescue a girl, make her laugh, and suddenly she forgets the disaster of her evening." "Strategy?" He placed a hand dramatically over his chest. "This is pure social science. I'm testing a theory." "What kind of theory?" That absurd questions reveal more about a person than any serious interview ever could. Anna raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. "Absurd questions?" Exactly. So, if you could choose one superpower but it only worked on Thursdays between 4 and 5 p.m., what would it be? She blinked. You're serious? Deadly serious. Choose wisely. The future of humanity depends on it. She leaned back in her chair, folding her arms. Fine. I'd pick teleportation. Why? Because on Thursdays between 4 and 5, I'm usually stuck in traffic after my cafe shift, trying to rush to my second job. Teleportation would save me from a lot of blisters. Daniel grinned. Practical. I like it. And you? What would you pick? He thought for a moment, his eyes sparkling. The power to make everyone around me laugh uncontrollably. Just for 1 hour. Imagine solving traffic jams by having the entire highway too busy laughing to honk their horns. Anna shook her head, smiling despite herself. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And yet, Daniel replied, raising his wine glass, it made you smile. Experiment successful. The waiter arrived with menus, and Anna immediately froze. The elegant script meant nothing to her. Dishes with names she couldn't pronounce swam before her eyes, each one probably costing more than her daily wages. She hesitated, trying to find the cheapest option, but Daniel noticed. Don't worry, he said softly, leaning closer. I've already eaten worse for more money. Tonight, just order what you actually want. Her throat tightened. I can't afford. You don't have to. This isn't about the bill, Anna. Tonight, it's about company. I've wasted plenty of money on people who drained me. Tonight, I'd rather invest in someone who makes me forget the noise of my world. She stared at him, stunned into silence. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not as a customer, not as a date, not as a man who clearly belonged to a different universe. The dinner unfolded like nothing she had expected. They skipped the polite first date questions entirely. Instead, Daniel asked if she believed dogs secretly understood economics, or if she would rather fight one horse-sized duck or 50 duck-sized horses. Anna nearly spat out her wine when she answered. By the time dessert arrived, the tight knot in her chest had unraveled into something she hadn't felt in a long time: ease. Laughter spilled freely, and Daniel's sharp wit matched hers in a rhythm that felt strangely natural. Still, beneath the humor, a quiet thought pulsed inside her. She was a waitress with $5 in her purse. He was a millionaire with an empire. Their worlds weren't just different, they were galaxies apart. And yet, as she watched him laugh at one of her sarcastic remarks, she couldn't shake the feeling that, for the first time in her life, someone wasn't looking at her uniform, her shoes, or her bank account. He was just looking at her. That night, when Daniel insisted on driving her home, he didn't try to impress her with speed or brag about his car. He simply drove in silence, occasionally glancing at her as though she were the most fascinating thing in the city. At her modest apartment building, Anna hesitated before stepping out. Thank you. For tonight. For the rescue. For the laugh. Daniel's eyes softened. Thank you. For reminding me I can still laugh at all. She closed the door and walked upstairs, her heart racing. As she set her bag down on the counter, she caught her reflection in the mirror. Her blouse was wrinkled, her makeup smudged, her hair escaping its pins, and yet she was smiling. The worst night of her life had somehow become the first night she didn't feel invisible. Saturday mornings were usually Anna's busiest shift. Café Luna filled with families ordering pancakes, tired office workers clutching coffees, and children smearing syrup on menus. Anna had learned to juggle trays, refill mugs, and wipe down tables in record time. The chaos was exhausting but familiar, like the hum of a city street you stop noticing after a while. But that morning felt different. Every laugh from a customer seemed sharper. Every whisper behind the counter seemed directed at her. She caught Clara, her coworker, glancing at her nervously before disappearing into the back office. When the manager finally called her name, Anna knew something was wrong. "Anna, can you step inside for a moment?" She wiped her hands on her apron and followed him. The office smelled like burnt coffee and paper receipts. Mr. Carlson, the owner, sat behind his desk, shifting uncomfortably. "I'll get straight to the point," he said, avoiding her eyes. "We're letting you go." Anna blinked. "What? Why?" Carlson rubbed the back of his neck. "It's about image. Some of our more influential clients saw you last night. With Daniel Brooks." Her stomach dropped. "You mean I'm fired because I had dinner?" "Not just dinner. It was in public. People talk. They wonder what kind of establishment I'm running if my staff are—" He hesitated, then muttered, "Fraternizing with certain circles." "Fraternizing." Anna's voice rose. "I was humiliated on a blind date, and someone was kind enough to save me from it. That's not fraternizing. That's survival." "Anna, please understand," Carlson said, raising his hands defensively. "This isn't personal, but the cafe has an image to maintain. Our wealthy clients want professionalism, not gossip. You're a good worker, but—" He trailed off. "But not the right kind of worker anymore," she finished for him, her throat tightening. She yanked off her apron and tossed it on the chair. "Don't bother with a reference. I'll find something better than this place anyway." When she walked out, Clara tried to stop her, whispering, "Annie, I'm sorry." But Anna brushed past, her eyes burning. By the time she reached her apartment, her hands were trembling. Rent was due in 2 weeks. Her sister Mia's school books hadn't been paid for yet. Losing the cafe meant losing the only stable income she had. She sank onto the couch, pressing her palms to her eyes, fighting the tears. A knock sounded at the door. She almost ignored it, assuming it was Clara checking on her. But when she opened the door, Daniel Brooks stood in the hallway, holding a coffee cup in one hand and a paper bag in the other. "You look like you need pancakes more than I do," he said simply, holding out the bag. Anna stared, stunned. "What are you doing here?" "I went to the cafe. They told me you weren't working there anymore. I put 2 and 2 together." Her chest tightened. "You got me fired." His brows furrowed. "No, Yes, you did. Some influential clients saw me with you, and suddenly I'm bad for their image. Congratulations, Daniel Brooks. You just ruined the only job I had." He winced, guilt flickering across his face. "I'm sorry. That was never my intention." "Of course not," she snapped, crossing her arms. "People like you never intend to hurt people like me. But it happens anyway, doesn't it?" Daniel exhaled slowly, then set the bag on the counter. "Then let me fix it." She laughed bitterly. "Fix it? Are you going to buy me a new cafe?" "No," he said calmly. "I'm going to give you a job. With me." Anna froze. "A job? Doing what? Polishing your trophies?" "As my personal assistant," he answered without hesitation. "I need someone organized. Someone who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. Someone who doesn't treat me like a golden ticket. And I think you're exactly that person." She blinked, caught between shock and outrage. "You want me to be your assistant?" "Yes." He smiled faintly. "Think of it as the world's strangest promotion. From waitress to bossing around a millionaire." Anna shook her head. "You're insane. I don't know anything about running your world." "Perfect," Daniel replied, "because my world is broken. I don't need someone to blend in with it. I need someone to remind me it's okay to be human." Her heart thudded, but she forced herself to scoff. "That's a very poetic way to say you're offering me charity." "It's not charity," he said firmly. "It's necessity." My schedule's a disaster. My house is run by machines that bully me more than they help me. And don't even ask about my meetings. Last week, I showed up to one in slippers because my calendar app malfunctioned. Despite herself, Anna snorted. Slippers. Pink. Fuzzy. Daniel admitted, straight-faced. The board is still traumatized. For the first time all day, Anna laughed, a small crack in her armor. She rubbed her forehead, torn. This is insane, she muttered. Probably, Daniel agreed. But so was teleportation at 4 p.m. on Thursdays, remember? You still gave me an answer. Her lips twitched. He had a point. I'll think about it, she said finally. That's all I ask, he replied, stepping back toward the door. Think about it. And eat the pancakes before they get cold. When he left, Anna stared at the bag on the counter. She opened it to find pancakes drizzled with syrup, with a napkin tucked inside. On it, in Daniel's messy handwriting, were 3 words. Not charity. Choice. For the first time since she'd been fired, hope stirred faintly in her chest. Monday morning came faster than Anna would have liked. She stood outside the towering glass building of Brooks Enterprises, clutching her modest handbag like a shield. People in tailored suits streamed past her, badges flashing, heels clicking against marble. She felt out of place, like she'd wandered into a film set where everyone knew their lines but her. Daniel met her at the lobby, dressed in a navy suit that somehow managed to look effortless. He grinned when he saw her. You came. I said I'd think about it, Anna muttered. And then I thought, rent's due. He chuckled. Practical as ever. Let's start with a tour. The tour turned out to be less about the office and more about Daniel's chaotic world. His assistants whispered in relief when Anna was introduced. Apparently, no one had been able to handle his unpredictable schedule, his overflowing inbox, or his tendency to disappear mid-meeting when something bored him. By noon, Anna had already reorganized his calendar, silenced 3 redundant reminders from his phone, and convinced him to actually attend a board call instead of texting sarcastic emojis into the group chat. You're terrifying, Daniel admitted as he watched her breeze through his desk. In a good way. Terrifying. You made 3 CEOs tremble on that call. One of them is twice your age. Anna smirked. Maybe they're not used to someone telling them to get to the point. Daniel leaned closer, lowering his voice. Neither am I. Her pulse skipped, but before she could respond, the glass doors to his office swung open. Danny, a voice purred. Anna turned. A woman swept into the room with the grace of someone who had practiced entrances her whole life. Veronica Ashford, tall, elegant, draped in a designer dress the color of midnight. Diamonds glinted at her ears, her perfume trailing like a warning. Veronica, Daniel said flatly. You didn't call me back, she replied, ignoring Anna completely. I thought we could catch up. Old times. Anna stepped back, suddenly hyper-aware of her thrift store blouse and scuffed shoes. Veronica's eyes finally flicked toward her, sharp and assessing. And who's this? Veronica asked sweetly, though the sweetness was pure venom. My assistant, Daniel said quickly. Anna. Veronica's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. An assistant. How quaint. Anna's spine stiffened, but she forced a polite smile. Nice to meet you. I'm sure it is, Veronica replied, turning back to Daniel. Do you remember our dinner at La Scala? The staff still ask about us. Such a shame to waste that kind of reputation. Daniel's jaw tightened. That was years ago. And yet, Veronica said lightly, some things don't change, like knowing what's best for you. Anna busied herself with a stack of papers, pretending not to hear, though each word stung. She wasn't supposed to care, This wasn't her world, and Daniel wasn't her man. But still, it felt like being invisible all over again. When Veronica finally left, her heels clicking like daggers on marble, Anna let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Does she come here often?" Anna asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "Too often," Daniel muttered. He rubbed his temples. "Ignore her. She thrives on reaction." "Hard to ignore someone who treats you like furniture," Anna said before she could stop herself. Daniel looked at her, then really looked. His expression softened. "You're not furniture, Anna. You're the only person in this building who actually makes sense." For a moment, the air between them shifted. His gaze lingered, her breath quickened, and it felt like the room had shrunk to just the two of them. His hand brushed against hers as he reached for the papers, and the spark was undeniable. But the moment shattered with the sharp buzz of his phone. A message flashed on the screen from Veronica. "Dinner tonight? We need to talk." Daniel quickly turned the phone face down, but Anna had already seen it. The knot in her chest tightened again. She forced a smile, pretending nothing had happened, and returned to her desk. That evening, when she left the building, Anna told herself the butterflies in her stomach were foolish. Daniel Brooks was a man who lived in a world of diamonds and boardrooms. She was just a waitress turned assistant, filling a role until something better came along. Still, when she lay awake that night, she couldn't forget the way he had looked at her, like she was the only real thing in his carefully constructed world. The week blurred into a whirlwind of meetings, deadlines, and Daniel's unpredictable moods. Anna adapted quickly, learning his rhythms. How he liked his coffee extra strong before morning calls, how he hummed absent-mindedly when he was focused, how he sometimes stared out the window for long minutes as though searching for something he couldn't name. She told herself she was only doing a job, but her heart betrayed her every time his hand brushed hers while passing papers. Every time he lingered just a little too long when thanking her. It was dangerous, and she knew it. One afternoon, while she was leaving the office, a familiar voice stopped her in the lobby. "Well, if it isn't Cinderella herself," Ryan Brooks drawled, leaning casually against the reception desk. Anna's stomach sank. "What do you want?" Ryan smirked. "Relax. I'm not here to humiliate you. That ship already sailed. But you should know something for your own good." "I doubt you know what's good for me," she shot back, but her pulse quickened. Ryan leaned closer, his cologne too sharp, his grin too smug. "That dinner you had with Danny? It wasn't fate. It wasn't even coincidence. Veronica arranged it." Anna froze. "What are you talking about?" "She knew you were meeting me. She knew I'd make a scene. She wanted Danny to swoop in and play hero. Classic setup. Make him look noble, make you look small. And it worked. You're in his orbit now, dancing to his tune." Her chest tightened painfully. "You're lying." "Am I?" Ryan arched an eyebrow. "Ask him. Or better yet, ask Veronica. She'll be more than happy to explain how you were just a pawn in her game." He patted her shoulder mockingly and strolled out, leaving her rooted to the floor, the world tilting beneath her. That evening, when she returned to Daniel's office to drop off some files, her hands were trembling. He looked up from his desk, immediately sensing something was wrong. "Anna? What happened?" She set the papers down with more force than necessary. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" He frowned. "Truth about what?" "About that night. About Ryan. About Veronica." Her voice cracked. "Did you know? Was it all some kind of game?" His face paled. "Anna, listen to me. I never. You let me believe it was fate," she interrupted, tears burning her eyes. "You let me think you cared, when really I was just part of your twisted social experiment." "It wasn't like that." Daniel said quickly, standing now, his voice urgent. Yes, Veronica knew. Yes, she manipulated things. But I didn't plan it, Anna. I swear to you. Then why didn't you tell me the moment you found out? He hesitated just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. The silence was louder than any lie. Anna's chest constricted. That's what I thought. She turned to leave, but the office doors swung open at the worst possible moment. Veronica glided in, holding a crystal glass of orange juice as though she owned the place. Well, well, she purred, eyes flicking between them. Trouble in paradise? Anna's fury boiled over. Without thinking, she strode up, snatched the glass from Veronica's hand, and dumped the juice all over her designer dress. Gasps erupted from the nearby staff. Veronica stood frozen, drenched, her perfect facade dripping with sticky orange humiliation. That's for treating me like I'm disposable, Anna hissed, her voice trembling but strong. And for thinking I wouldn't find out. She threw the empty glass onto the desk with a sharp clatter and turned back to Daniel. His eyes were wide, torn between anger, guilt, and something else she couldn't read. I'm done, Daniel, she said quietly, her voice breaking. I won't be your assistant. I won't be your charity case. And I sure as hell won't be anyone's pawn. Then she walked out, head high despite the tears threatening to fall, leaving behind the stunned silence of a world that had never expected a waitress to walk away from a millionaire. That night, in her small apartment, Anna curled up on the couch with her sister Mia fast asleep in the next room. She told herself she had done the right thing, that dignity mattered more than money, more than attraction, more than the fragile almost love she thought she saw in Daniel's eyes. But as she stared at the ceiling, her chest ached with a different truth. Walking away from him hurt more than any humiliation Ryan or Veronica had ever thrown at her. The invitation came 2 weeks later, tucked in between unpaid bills and a grocery store flyer. A white envelope, embossed with silver letters, Brooks Foundation Annual Gala. Anna almost tore it in half before even opening it. The last thing she wanted was to step foot into Daniel's glittering world again. But Clara convinced her. You need closure, Annie. Go, stand tall, and show them you're not broken. So she borrowed a simple black dress from a neighbor and clipped her hair back with trembling hands. It wasn't couture, it wasn't diamonds, but it was hers. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and silk gowns. Laughter echoed against marble walls, the air heavy with perfume and power. Anna hovered near the edge of the room, invisible as always, until a familiar voice sliced through the crowd. Well, if it isn't the waitress who thought she could play princess, Veronica sneered, appearing in another breathtaking gown. Brave of you to show your face here. Anna stiffened but said nothing. Veronica leaned closer, her smile sharp as glass. Danny's over you. He'll come back where he belongs. You were just an experiment. The words burned, but before Anna could reply, the lights dimmed and the announcer called Daniel's name. He stepped onto the stage, tall and composed in a dark suit, every eye in the room fixed on him. Good evening, he began, his voice calm but carrying an edge that made Anna's heart pound. Tonight, we gather to celebrate the future of this foundation. But before we talk about business, I need to speak about something personal. A ripple of curiosity moved through the crowd. Veronica straightened, her smile widening, certain this was about her. Daniel's gaze swept the room and landed on Anna. He didn't look away. 2 months ago, he said, I watched a woman stand up for herself in a way most people in this room have never dared. She was humiliated on a blind date, and she walked out with her dignity intact. That woman taught me more about courage and honesty than all my years in boardrooms combined. Whispers erupted. Cameras turned. Anna froze, her breath caught in her throat. Daniel stepped down from the stage, microphone still in hand, moving through the crowd until he stood directly in front of her. His voice shook slightly now, but his eyes burned with determination. "Ana Lopez," he said, loud enough for every guest, every critic, every gossip columnist to hear. "I don't care if the world calls you a waitress. To me, you are the woman who reminded me what it means to be alive. You're the one who makes me laugh when nothing else does. And I love you." The room gasped. Veronica's face crumpled in disbelief. Evelyn Brooks, standing stiffly near the front row, covered her mouth in shock. Daniel dropped to one knee, not in a private corner, not in whispered secrecy, but in front of everyone who had ever doubted her. He pulled out a small velvet box, opened it and held it up. "Will you marry me?" The ballroom fell silent. Anna's heart raced, her mind screaming with doubts. About class, about money, about how far apart their worlds still were. But then she saw his face. Not the polished millionaire mask, but the man who once asked her if dogs understood economics. The man who bought her pancakes when she lost everything. The man who looked at her as if she was the only real thing in his universe. Her eyes blurred with tears. Slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling but sure. "Yes." Applause erupted, cameras flashed, and for the first time in her life, Anna didn't feel like the invisible girl in the corner. She felt seen, chosen, and loved. Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms, kissing her as the crowd roared. Veronica stormed out, her heels echoing like gunshots on marble. Evelyn stood frozen for a moment longer before turning away, her expression unreadable. But Anna didn't care. All she could feel was Daniel's arms around her, steady and certain, as if he'd been waiting for her all along. 6 months later, the world looked very different for Ana Lopez. Her mornings no longer began with balancing 3 trays of coffee orders at the cafe. Instead, she woke up in a modest townhouse on the quieter side of the city, sunlight pouring through wide windows. She still brewed coffee, not because she had to, but because Daniel loved the way she hummed in the kitchen. After the gala, the headlines had been merciless. Millionaire proposes to waitress in front of high society. Some mocked, some romanticized, some speculated endlessly about how long it would last. But for Anna and Daniel, life shrank down to something simpler than headlines. The comfort of shared breakfasts, the laughter over burnt pancakes, and the steady rhythm of building something together. Anna refused to be a trophy wife. She kept her promise to herself and launched a small consulting service, helping overwhelmed startups with organization, scheduling, and structure. Daniel insisted on backing her financially, but Anna made it clear, "This is my business, not a branch of yours." He respected that and bragged about her success more than his own. Their evenings often ended with them sprawled on the couch, Anna's head on Daniel's shoulder, Mia, her younger sister, showing them her homework, and Daniel pretending not to need glasses as he helped with math. It was chaotic, imperfect, and completely theirs. The hardest part was Evelyn Brooks. For weeks, Daniel's mother refused to acknowledge Anna. She skipped dinners, ignored invitations, and when she did appear, she referred to Anna only as the waitress. But life has a way of humbling even the proudest. One afternoon, Evelyn appeared unannounced at their door. Her posture was stiff, her pearls perfectly in place, but her eyes betrayed something softer. She handed Anna a worn recipe card. "This was Daniel's grandmother's bread," she said awkwardly. "No one's made it in years. I thought, maybe you could." Anna accepted it silently, her heart pounding. It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was a beginning. Later that night, as the smell of warm bread filled the kitchen, Daniel wrapped his arms around Anna from behind and kissed the top of her head. "You've done the impossible," he whispered. "You made my mother share her kitchen." Months turned into a year. Anna's business flourished, Daniel's company thrived with her steady influence, and the noise of gossip columns faded into irrelevance. When Anna discovered she was pregnant, Daniel cried harder than she did. Their wedding was nothing like the glittering galas Daniel once attended. Instead, they stood under a canopy of fairy lights in the backyard, surrounded by a handful of friends, Mia tossing flower petals with unrestrained joy. Anna wore a simple dress, Daniel a navy suit, and when they said their vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the yard. As the evening ended, Daniel pulled Anna close beneath the stars. "Do you realize," he murmured, "that the worst blind date in history turned into the best mistake of my life?" Anna laughed through her tears. "Not a mistake," she corrected. "A beginning." And as they swayed to the faint music, their little world complete, Anna finally understood. She wasn't just the waitress who had stumbled into someone else's story. She was the author of her own, and Daniel was the chapter she had never dared to dream of.